What's up, Canes fans? Welcome to the Canes Insight Daily Podcast powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. One day closer to Gainesville, you're starting to see the buzz build. I know a lot of you in your NCAA dynasties getting gear, hopefully at the Miami Hurricane team store and otherwise getting ready for the season. We're going to dive deep into what's probably the most questionable position on the team. Let's be real. The safety position, you lose two guys to the NFL. A lot of youth expected to contribute, some new faces, not a lot of experience at Miami at this position. So probably the position you're going to watch the most against Florida. We'll dig deep into the depth chart, projected starters, expectations for some of these guys, and the latest we're hearing from inside sources. First, want to talk about my friends at Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. 1-800-747-3733, 1-800-747-FREE. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. They don't get paid until you get paid. Peach up in here. By the way, look at this Bullpen Mafia swag that they dropped off for us. Shout out to Javi and Toad and the whole team.
You gotta move a little bit there. The mic is blocking. There you go.
If you love baseball like I do, I'm a suffering Marlins fan, or if you're cheering for one of the teams that's actually winning, or you just like college baseball, Javi Salas, of course, perfect game thrower for the Hurricanes. Check out that podcast. We don't get paid to promote it. I'm just promoting it because it's an awesome show, and I think you guys will dig it. But going back to football here, safety. Let's talk about it. This is going to be, to me, one of the key positions on the team, probably the key position on the team as far as unanswered questions in camp and on the football field. I don't know where to start here. You lose Cam Kitchens to the NFL. He's doing great in St. Louis. It shows I'm getting old. In Los Angeles Rams camp, having multiple picks of Matt Stafford. He was All-American as a sophomore, took a step back as a junior, but of course a key player on the team. James Williams now playing linebacker for the Tennessee Titans, but somebody who started a lot of games for Miami at safety. Who's next? You bring in Mees Powell from Washington. Jalen Harris steps up, a couple freshmen. There's a lot of unanswered questions here.
Yeah, and look, you lose a guy in Savion Riley over the spring, right? He was here for a short period of time, ended up at Colorado, and he was a guy that you thought had a little bit of experience. I don't want to say he was a for sure starter, right? Because we didn't know that he would have been in the mix there, but that would have been a guy who had some snaps previously, obviously at Vanderbilt. But look, you said it best. Not a lot of experience here at Miami. Mees Powell, that we'll get to now in a second, does have a ton of experience under his belt. One of the most veteran players on this Canes roster, but he played a lot of nickel as well, right? So you're still not, it's not a complete projection because he has played safety. He's a very versatile guy in the secondary there, but he's probably your leader at that position. And outside of that, you have a handful of guys there that we've seen some flashes from, but we're guessing in a sense, right? And that's kind of been my theme when we look at some of these other positions, is that on top of the guys you bring back, you look at receiver, for example, you have guys what you're getting there, and then you're also bringing in a guy like Sam Brown that you see what he did at Houston, right? You don't have that same production even from another school outside of Powell here at that position.
Yeah, and the weakness at nickel, which we'll talk about tomorrow when we do cornerbacks, sort of lends itself or sort of contributes to this issue you have at safety, where Mees Powell played a lot of nickel in spring. So you take him out of safety, which is thin to start with, and put him in the nickel. You weren't able to really stock that nickel position in the portal. So those two weaknesses from a depth standpoint kind of go hand in hand and play into each other a little bit. So hard to separate the two. I do think Mees Powell is going to be playing a lot more safety here as we get into camp and the season. But that is something to watch if there is an injury at corner or at safety, God forbid. There could be some issues with those two positions and not having enough, not having the ability to maybe play someone that you want for safety more because you need him at nickel. And he's also already playing outside corner. I think of a guy like Jadis Richard or something like that. So this is an interesting position to watch because it's the thinnest position on the team and it goes hand in hand with another position that's thin, which is nickel. But let's start with the most experienced guy, the guy you're counting on the most, and that is Mees Powell, 6'1", 210, class of 2019. So for Canes fans, that's like, Zion Nelson, right? Christian Williams to Corey Couch, a lot of guys that blast from the past, guys that either played a long time in Miami and have since graduated, or guys that are long gone from this program. So he is an older player, a 6-year player. He is a walk-on originally at the University of Washington from that area. He had Ivy League offers coming out, really smart guy, worked himself into a player, started off as a cornerback, started games at cornerback for Washington, and shifted over to safety, where he played for Washington's college football playoff finalist team. He was their starting safety, played a ton of snaps, led the team in INTs, had a pick 6 pass deflections as well in 2024. Of course, Kalen DeBoer goes to Alabama. Mees Powell's on the market. Florida wanted him bad. Miami wanted him bad. Miami able to get that done and bring in Mees Powell. Saw him in spring a bunch playing safety, battling with Restrepo. He does have that ability as a corner, but 6'1", 210, not the fastest guy in the world. That's not where you want him to be living. I think free safety, where he can use his IQ, his ability to take away the ball, which you saw again at a high level at a big stage at Washington, that's probably where he fits best.
Yeah, and I think you said it best. I don't know if he's going to blow anyone away with a 40 time or anything like that, but at free safety, D, you really want someone back there who's not going to gamble too badly, not make that big mistake. Which we love Cam. Obviously, we expect him to do big things at the next level, but that could probably be his the knock on him at times last year, right? Is gambling for the interception, gambling for the big play. I think Cam's probably a notch above him. What Powell is, at least at this point, but you have a guy there who's played a ton of football, who's seen every offense in the book at this point. And with a group that has a bunch of inexperience at that position, he's exactly what you want leading them. So I think at free safety should be really, really solid for the Canes this season.
Yeah, and I think the IQ is really what stands out, and the experience. I mentioned the Ivy League offers. This is a really smart guy. This is a guy who's played a lot of football. Those two things stand out. And then the coverage ability. This is someone who was a corner starting games in the Power 4, at that time, Power 5 conference in the Pac-12. So more of a cover safety. The physicality, he's not small at 6'1", 210. And I've seen him make tackles, but I wouldn't call him a thumper at the defensive back position. You saw him get run over by Davey Martinez, who is now his teammate, was then at Oregon State, now the running back for the Miami Hurricanes. So I think from a physicality standpoint, and from maybe even a ball hawk standpoint, just because Cam Kitchens was so special, you take a step back in that area. But if you're comparing him to Cam Kitchens, both guys really smart. I think one advantage that Powell has is just manning up and covering guys. I think he just has more pure cover skills than Cam Kitchens. Cam Kitchens could have never started games as a corner at the college level. A lot of other things great. I'm the biggest Cam Kitchens fan there is. I'm not surprised he's doing well in the pros. But just looking at, again, comparing the two, physicality, you're going to get better with Kitchens. You're losing something there. Ball hawk, nobody's better than Kitchens in that respect. But coverage, I do think you upgrade with a Mees Powell. And that is something you can always use in this modern era of football, the versatility with coverage.
Yeah, agreed. And look, we expect him to play safety, but I could see him playing nickel in certain packages. And look, the veteran leadership he brings to the group, I think, is going to be the main thing. And we'll hear from him a little bit later in the show on Zaquan Patterson. But it's very, very valuable having a guy like him in that room to bring up some of these younger guys.
And we talk about experience, shifting to somebody that I'm really, really excited about. I've been hyping this guy up all summer, all spring. That is Jalen Harris, another well-built guy, 6'2", 200. He's younger than Mees Powell. Powell, 6th-year guy, Harris, a 3rd-year guy. But really, compared to the rest of the room, he is a veteran player, body type-wise, the way he carries himself. He just looks like a mature player physically and mentally. Came from Georgia in that class of 2022, which is the transition class. Manny Tamario, T-Rob identified Jalen Harris. Mario came in, still like Jalen Harris, kept that commitment. Was really looked as more of a corner out of high school because of his speed. Played all over the field in a smaller school in Georgia, and speed was really his game. His father's a Colombian soccer player. We've had him on the show. Very interesting, kind of athletic background. He probably thought he told us he thought he was going to be a soccer player before shifting to football. So I think learning football, not that he didn't know football, but he wasn't like a St. Thomas defensive back or an American Heritage defensive back that had been coached up that much. He was somebody that had played all over the place, including kicking the ball, comes in, starts off as a nickel, played as a true freshman, got cooked a couple times in Mario's first year at that position, ended up shifting to safety. Lance Guidry immediately took a liking to him. Played a little bit last year, was playing behind 2 NFL guys, so we didn't have a ton of time. Thankfully, those guys were pretty healthy. So you didn't see a ton from Jalen Harris, 7 tackles. But from what I saw in spring, you saw the speed, one of the fastest players on the team in the GPS. You saw the increased size, the physicality and toughness. This guy tackles you. He hits you. He's active. You see him making plays in the backfield with his closing speed and his aggressiveness. He's not going to be a Sean Taylor type hitter, but this guy will tackle consistently. And the comparison I had, if things go well, would be like a James Lewis, who some of y'all might remember from 2001, had a pick 6, some very big pick 6s, played great in the Rose Bowl against Nebraska, and was just a really solid player, solid tackler, similar build, similar speed.
Yeah, I'm very high on Jalen Harris, D. I think if you look at this safeties group, he might be the most complete safety from a physical standpoint. You talk about his ability to run, he can cover, he can tackle. And I think all these guys have their flaws when you really break it down, but he has the potential to be, I think, the best one of this group. And we saw him play last year when Cam Kitchens went down. I'm going to play a clip now from Mario Cristobal after Jaden was playing a couple weeks last year, and you could see he was really starting to build his confidence there, at that time of the season.
A guy that already was developing and playing well that has to be highlighted is Jalen Harris. I mean, that guy's, you want to talk about a transition, a transformation, so to speak, of a guy that was playing on special teams and maybe not playing with a lot of confidence in our scheme is now as dependable as any player on our football team.
So you heard it there. I mean, for Mario to say he was as dependable as anybody on that defense, I think is a very strong statement. And we talk about with these young guys, not just a safety, but any position, you can make a player too, you can show these flashes, but the consistency is what's going to separate them and really make them a consistent starter and a down in, down out player. For him, at least last year, Mario thought he had turned the corner there. Obviously Cam came back and was healthy after that, so his snaps diminished a bit there. But that's the hardest part for any young player at this position in particular. Very excited about his upcoming season. I think he has a very bright future ahead of him. Yeah,
and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I said that Cam and James Williams were healthy last year, which they were for the most part, but Cam did miss a couple games with that concussion. So you saw Jalen Harris get in there. Gidrew was talking a ton about Jalen Harris both during the spring and then even this morning at practice. He gave some praise to Jalen Harris and the way he's carried himself differently as a starter, confidence-wise, and all those sort of things. I don't think anyone that we're talking about today is going to be able to replace Cam Kitchens as a ball hawk. That's not Harris's game either. Mees Powell is more of a ball hawk than Harris. Harris is really more speed, physicality, and those sorts of things, as opposed to being that natural center fielder, which is a lot of instincts, just a lot of God-given ability to track the ball. I don't think that's Harris, but he makes up for a lot of other things. I do think he'll be a speed increase over Cam Kitchens. Again, I don't think any of these guys are as good as Cam Kitchens, but there's certain areas where you do get better. And I think that's coverage when it comes to Mees Powell, and it's going to be speed, pure speed when it comes to Jalen Harris. And same thing applies to James Williams. Harris is going to be faster than any of those safeties we saw last year.
Yep, agreed. And I think Jaden also just got nominated for a community service award as well, the Danny Werfel trophy, which we shouldn't speak his name on this show with game 1 coming up, but good for him on that. And I think, shows the maturity aspect of his of what he's shown early on in his time on campus.
Yeah, look, if you want to support athletes like Jalen Harris, like Mees Powell, go to the Miami Hurricane team store. That's where you can get your athletic gear, the elite athletic gear, top of the line stuff, while also supporting Miami's program at the same time. This is the official team store. Here you see on the website, as you scroll through, you see Samson Okalola wearing the Hawaiian Miami shirt and the hat. You see JoJo Trader, I believe Ray Joseph over here, side gigs as apparel models here. And again, the selection is off the charts. This is Miami HTS Hurricane Team Store, MiamiHTS.com. And if you're in the area, right there in front of UM, literally facing the campus, it is right in the Thesis Hotel, right next to the Thesis Hotel. This is on US 1, right in front of the University of Miami. So stop by. It's a beautiful facility, beautiful location, TVs everywhere, all kinds of new gear, everything brand new, unbelievable spot, unbelievable area. So definitely check it out. We do some podcasts from there in the future, but you want to get your summer gear, Miami HTS. Get those slides, those orange slides. That's been the hot item. They also got autographed memorabilia, close connection with Canes Connection. So they do it. They do a ton. So let's talk about an athlete who is probably the most heralded of this group from a recruiting standpoint, from a hype standpoint, all of the above. That is Zaquan Patterson, listed at 6'2". I think he might be bigger than that. He certainly presents bigger than any safety in the room. Top 100 player last year out of Chaminade. Saw him on a lot of national stages. Chaminade played a lot of national TV games during his tenure there, and he was always one of the best players, if not the best players on the field. Saw him take over a game last August, just blitzing. His timing on blitzes is remarkable. He's an excellent special teams player, very physical against the run, has some coverage ability as well. Seen him make some nice plays at 7-on-7, using his length. I don't think that's his strength, but he can do it. But certainly in terms of tackling, he reminds me, James Williams is somebody that played a lot as a true freshman, made some plays against Alabama in that 2021 opener and never really left the lineup. Patterson reminds me of Williams in the good ways, but a much, to me, better tackler because he's lower to the ground and has that more ability to strike than James Williams, who at 6'5", you just couldn't really wrap guys in the same way.
Yeah, and I'm going to play this clip now from Mees Powell, who, as we've talked about, has played a lot of football, has seen a lot of different defensive backs in his time in college football, and he spoke very, very highly of the freshman Zaquan Patterson.
Right. I mean, I tell him every day, that's a freshman All-American. I tell him every day he's going to be one of the greatest safeties, to ever come out of Miami, and he's going to have his name up here. He's super talented, super smart. He's a great tackler. That's something you need at safety. And then he can cover, the safety position, being able to do all those things and just being so, intelligent on the field right now. And he's probably 17, 18 years old. That's something that, I wish I had. So, I just make sure I just hammer him and just make sure he knows that, hey, you can be really good here. You can play this year and, understand that you just got to be consistent. I think that's just the biggest thing of being, an elite player is you got to be able to make the same plays, every single day, not just, once every other practice. So that's just really it. But, he's been doing a hell of a job. He's a hell of a player.
So high praise there from Mees Powell on Zaquan Patterson, D. I mean, telling him he could be one of the greats to have ever played the position at Miami, which we understand there have been some special ones at that position. So I think that's a great sign, right? I mean, that's really looking in the right direction there when it comes to Zaquan Patterson.
Yeah, and look, I think you're going to expect this guy to play right away. He just has to. Due to the lack of depth at the position, his pedigree, the fact he was here in spring, and the things he's been able to do since he's been here, you have to expect this guy to play right away. I know safety's not an ideal position for a young player to play, but guys with this pedigree, they play. James Williams played a lot as a true freshman. Jaquan Johnson played a lot as a true freshman. Cam Kitchens played a lot as a true freshman. Look at some of his peers as far as being a top 100 safety in the country. Look at 2023, last year, the top 100. The safeties listed as top 100 players. Caleb Downs, SEC Freshman of the Year. Peyton Bowen played a ton for Oklahoma. Derek Williams played a ton for Texas, had 42 tackles, 373 snaps. Javian Toviano is kind of a safety / corner. He started 3 games for LSU. Jonel Aguero, he would have played a lot and started at defense if not for the presence of a 3rd-round pick in front of him, but he was awesome on special teams and is projected to be a breakout player this year. So that's the caliber of guy in this recruiting range. And I think with Zaquan getting here early, having that preparation at Chaminade, going against these big schools, going against guys like JoJo Trader, Jeremiah Smith in practice, I don't think it's too much to expect him to play early. Your Lance Guidry earlier today talked about he expects Patterson to play some on defense early. He didn't say how much, but he did expect him to play and says he's going to be a major special teams player, which of course he already was in high school, a standout in coverage units, blocking kicks and things like that. So I think that really there's no choice for this guy to play. And as far as true freshmen with pressure on them this season, Zaquan Patterson might be at top of that list.
Yeah, because we've talked about how at a lot of these positions, Miami kind of has the luxury to not really rely. I use the word rely at some of these spots on the freshmen because they can kind of play a certain role that, whether it's some of these young pass rushers come in on pass rushing situations, just get after the quarterback. They don't have to worry about much else. Miami, I believe at times this year is going to have to rely on Zaquan Patterson. So I agree with you on that statement, but it seems like his head's in the right place mentally. Really seems like he's doing everything from a preparation standpoint to be ready to play. So I have no reason to doubt that he can make it happen right away for Miami. But we'll see. We'll see how early he gets thrown into the fire. Is he thrown into the mix on the road against Florida, where communication, could be a little bit of an issue with the way that, that crowd's going to be rocking. So that's kind of the question there, is how early does he get thrown in the mix? Obviously, after the Florida game, you have an opportunity with some of these teams Miami is going to play that you'd expect him to get some really valuable, meaningful snaps. But he's going to see some time against Florida. I don't think there's any doubt.
Yeah, look, if you're listening to this and wondering how can I help as a listener, Canes Connection, Miami's official NIL. You add a Mees Powell, you add a Zaquan Patterson. That is obviously a lot of great recruiting, a lot of great opportunity in Miami, but also the presence of a robust and well-run NIL program and the support of people like you. That's why you're able to bring in players like this that help you maintain the level you need to potentially win the ACC at a position like safety. So please, if you have not signed up, new signups at any price point, $1 for the first month. If you use the link in the bio that we have, you get not only that $1 deal, you also have access to a private Zoom call with me that is regular, talking about things that I cannot talk about on this show, private information, recruiting, team, you name it, practices for you. CanesConnection.com/CIS. You could use the link in the bio, it'll take you right there, and on the website. Support this program, make an impact. You can make a difference on what happens on the field with getting guys like Mees Powell and Zaquan Patterson. So switching gears to a guy who's been around, but is also somewhat of an unknown, someone that's going to really have a microscope on them this season, and that is Marquise Williams, former four-star player out of Orlando Evans. Like Jalen Harris, this was a guy that was recruited by Coach Robinson, who is now at the University of Georgia. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Mees Powell. Not as physically mature, probably not as mature overall. Again, 6-year player versus 3rd-year player. So maybe that maturity and development is at a different level when you talk about a Mees Powell. But this is a guy who has great ball hawking skills, was a prolific interceptor in high school, had a 10 interception season, I believe, as a junior, and shown nice coverage ability as well. It's not out of the realm that this guy, if he needed to play corner, could play corner based on things I've seen from him in practice and things I've heard about him talking to people. With him, it's just about consistency, continue to add weight. Can he be physical enough? Can he be consistent enough to be relied on in these big games?
Yeah, I've mentioned him a few times, both in the spring and then now in fall camp. And one of my instant reactions after one of the practices last week, D, and he's always someone that sticks out in these individual drills because he's smooth, man. Look, he's not going to be the most physical safety. He doesn't look like a guy who's ever going to be, laying the wood on the opposing team. But in coverage, man, I feel very good about what he brings. Length. Again, he's smooth. He can flip his hips, and it's all about finding the right role for him, right? As long as you're not asking him really to get downhill and be physical in the run game, that's obviously something that Coach Guidry wants from all of his defensive backs, from his safeties. But I think in the right role here, man, he can be a valuable player for Miami, and he's going to be in that mix, man. Like you said, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing him at corner as well.
Yeah, he could do it. Again, kind of like Mees Powell, but you need him at safety. I think he's really your Mees Powell backup, but he needs to see the consistency of preparation and performance of a Mees Powell, and that should be the model that he aspires to. I'm told he took a big step forward in that consistency department from year to year, certainly from when he first got here, but there's still room to go, and he's needed. This is a guy that's needed to contribute. And I think, look, when you look at all these safeties, if you want this position to be successful in 2024, I think it comes down to that word, safety, meaning don't give up the big play, being too aggressive and being selfish, trying to make a play for yourself at the expense of the team structure. Consistency in tackling, consistency in your assignments, not blowing coverages, just being where you're supposed to be. We don't need these safeties to be Ed Reed. We don't need these safeties to be Sean Taylor. We don't even need these safeties to be Cam Kitchens. And you saw last year, the safeties getting into some trouble, trying to do too much at times. We need these guys to be safeties in the purest sense of the word. The defensive ends are going to be causing havoc. The defensive tackles are going to get pressure. Kiko Mauno is going to be getting pressure. If these guys just put together a solid, clean season of football without trying to do too much, I think we will have success at this position.
I agree. I think it'll be interesting to see as the season goes on. And we've mentioned a couple times, does a Jadis Richard also get in the mix here? Because he has all the physical tools and has played safety in his career as well at Vanderbilt. But it's a group with a lot of unprovens. But if you're one of the guys in the group, you have to be excited because you're going to be given the opportunity to step up and make your role more prominent.
Yeah, one guy I want to talk about who we weren't sure if he was going to be a nickel, was he going to be an outside corner, was he going to be a safety? And we still don't know for sure, but I've heard trending more in the safety direction. That is Dylan Day, true freshman out of Baton Rouge, 6'2", 200, tested very well, ran in the 4.6s electronic, which given his track times, I think projects more as like a high 4.4, high 4.5 once he gets more development, just projecting those high school laser times forward. So he's a guy that can run. He has length. He was very productive at a very good school in Baton Rouge that played a lower level of competition. A lot of picks to the house, kicks to the house, just a big-time playmaker, very productive at that level. Out of Louisiana, that's where Lance Guidry is from. Dennis Smith, Miami's recruiting director. These guys have very deep connections. They were able to get Dylan Day, bring him into the program. He was here in spring, showed some nice flashes. We talked about him on the pod. Guidry talked about him on the pod. Had a hamstring injury, nothing major, but that knocked him out of spring. Maybe set him back in terms of, I won't say set him back, but kept him from getting ahead, right, from playing the whole spring. Now is back in a position that needs some help. And I think he's somebody that if he keeps doing what he's supposed to do, maybe he factors in to that safety conversation and, of course, special teams as well. Yeah,
I was at practice that day when he went down with that hamstring injury, and it looked like it was going to be even worse. So luckily it didn't keep him out an extended period of time. But he had a nice rep the other day when I was at practice on Ray Joseph. He was stride for stride with him, and we all know Ray can run. It was on a deep post up the middle of the field and into the end zone. It was like a 30-40 yard route, and man, he was stride for stride with him. You mentioned 6'2", 200. He looks that. The length is there. So how much does he play this year? We'll see. But I think he's a nice piece moving forward for the staff to develop.
Yeah, and before we get off safety, I want to talk about a couple more Isaiahs, right? Isaiah Thomas, this was a big recruit out of Canada. We had him on the show. Very, very sharp kid, engaging, great physical tools, dealing with multiple knee injuries out of high school. That's the question with him. I think probably more of a rehab season for him, getting him fully healthy, getting him up and running, getting those physical tools back. He's still young. If you're going to have injuries, you want to have them as a teenager because your body heals a little differently. A lot of guys in the pros that are freak athletes that you go back and read about them in high school and they had serious injuries that, they recovered like nothing. So you hope that happens. With Isaiah Thomas, I think more of a redshirt year for him because of the physical issues. Isaiah Taylor, you may know him as the son of Jason Taylor, his uncle on his mother's side, Zach Thomas. So the genes are incredible. His brother, Mason Taylor, one of the best tight ends in the country for LSU. Played a little bit at Arizona. He was a defensive player for Arizona who played snaps. That's a real program. So he's not like a walk-on, but I would say he's someone that you can contribute on special teams and can play with some experience as safety. But I wouldn't at this time project him to be one of those top 4 guys. But he's a guy you like to have in the room because of his experience, because of his bloodlines, because of his IQ. And there's things that he can do to help you. We'll see where he goes. I don't want to limit him too much because they got to play ball. And we've seen it a million times where these guys, you think you put them in a bucket and they overperform out of that. So excited to have him in the room to sort of, make sure that the bottom doesn't fall out at defensive back at safety because there's only so many guys there.
Yep. And then, of course, we'll wrap it up with this as we've been hyping it up. Big announcement tomorrow, D. And we're all excited for you guys to hear what it is.
Yeah, 8/7. That is tomorrow. So we've been putting the Reggie Wayne pictures up. Of course, should be a Hall of Famer, Reggie Wayne. But that 8/7 is for August 7th. Tune into the show. Like and subscribe to this podcast. Sign up for the CanesInsight.com forums. I'm sure they will be buzzing tomorrow. 6.9 million posts and counting. Maybe we'll get 7 million tomorrow. Sign up for free on there. Like and subscribe to this podcast. We're on audio as well. Spotify, Apple Music, you name it. But it is going to be a very, very Fun show tomorrow. I cannot wait to show you guys what we've been working on. And it's going to be a huge season for Canes Insight, just like it's a huge season for Mario Cristobal and the Miami Hurricanes. Thank you all for listening and supporting this show. Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Yeah, this an insight to the Canes, and you know we ain't playing no games. Joaquin said dominate, so that's what we do. Home of the legends and 7th floor crew, down in Miami where hurricanes brew. You here for the rumors, we bring you the news, cause it's all about the you, and nobody do it like Canes Insight. 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 It's Canes Insight.